Hello, hello. We're going live. Thank you very much for joining us. Today, we're going to take you through a tour, everything from A to Z about Odoo, an F&B solution, all in one for your restaurant, your cafe, your catering business. Not going to take much of your time, but I am looking forward to your questions. So feel free to chat. We'll keep it a little bit open towards the end so that you get to shoot your questions in, your concerns, and if you're interested even more, you can contact one of our experts towards the end. All right, so the all-in-one solution, what does that mean? What are we going to talk about? My name is Misbah Al-Khadim. I'm a senior business advisor with Odoo Middle East, an F&B expert. I've been working a lot with F&B entities for the past few years, everything from restaurants to cafes to catering businesses across the region. So, what I want to start with is essentially a short story. Many of you here started their F&B business. It could be a dream of yours to have a specialty coffee place, sandwich place, and now you're growing. Maybe you have a few branches, or maybe you're an established business. But usually the story goes something along these lines. You want to open a restaurant, and you have your different teams. So the first team you speak to, of course, is your front of house. Your front of house team, you go like, listen, I'm here to give you whatever you need. So what do you need? And they say, well, we need a point of sale. Okay, that's simple, easy. We also have a lot of those aggregators. So think Talabat, Deliveroo, Careem, Uber, Noon, Carriage, the list goes on, right? So we need something to help manage these orders as well. We also want the ability for people, when they're coming in the morning, they want to grab a quick order and leave. So a self-order kiosk would really help. They also want to have their own online sales channel. So something to manage that. And ever since, unfortunately, COVID, we've gotten used to QR codes on those tables, right? You scan the QR code, there's a PDF, you see a menu, sometimes you order, sometimes you pay, they work or they don't work. But we need one that's good. We also want people to be able to book tables, right? Weekends get busy. We don't want people to come all the way here and they have to wait for half an hour or longer and so on and so forth. So we also want that. And lastly, we want our customers to keep coming back. Therefore, we want some sort of a loyalty program, right? Buy 9 cups of coffee, get the 10th for free, or get 20% off on your next visit if you come within 2 weeks, or buy this, get that, and so on and so forth. So, okay, front of house, thank you very much. I need 7 things for you. Then you go to your kitchen team. They are essentially the engine to your restaurant or cafe. And they say, listen, we want to make sure that our menu items are top notch, so we need to menu engineer them. Okay, great. We need something to manage that. We also want to be able to deliver all the orders as quick as possible. Paper's thing of the past. We need a KDS, a kitchen display system. We also want something to schedule our staff. So because we operate long hours, weekends are busy. So something for that. And if you produce essentially from a central kitchen, or usually you prep ahead of time, right, for the next day. You don't cook the entire meal from A to Z. You have some things prepped from the day before. So you want something to manage that as well. So kitchen team, they require a few softwares. Now we need 11. Great. Back of house, they need an inventory system, equipment maintenance, quality control, something to manage their procurement. They do procurement almost on a daily basis. Now we have 15. Finance, of course. Finance are a bit simple. They just need an accounting system. But the headache comes from the fact that it needs to integrate with everything, right? We're getting orders online. We're getting orders from Talabat and so on. We're getting orders from the point of sale. They need to link everything together. There's procurement, there's inventory, there is payroll, and so on and so forth. So they need something with that. Okay, sure. And then the young lady from marketing, of course, says, listen, all of this doesn't matter. We need a customer database to make sure that we keep retaining our customers and market to them. We need something to manage our social media calendar and social media posts. We could email businesses if we're doing catering. We need a website, something nice and colorful. And we also want to make sure that we are always listening to our customers, taking their complaints and doing surveys so we know what to offer next and so on and so forth. Now, HR. Employee file management system, maybe. Something to manage their leaves, attendance, payroll, so on, appraisals, and so on and so forth. So with that, we realized that the total is 28 softwares. Now, I'm not going to tell you that there's no software that does 2 things or 3 things or 4 things. So let's consolidate. Let's imagine, even if you find some softwares that do 2 or 3 things, you will still end up with 7 to 8 softwares. And that's at least in my experience. Most of the clients I've dealt with, come from at least 5, 6, 7 different softwares, depending on their size. The larger they are, the more software they're using. And if their softwares they're using, and if they have different brands, because they're a group of restaurants, that even goes worse. But the industry average, and you can look it up, is 12. So when you try to find a solution to that problem, you either find something that's very F&B centric, something designed for F&B, but then it doesn't always integrate with everything. It's standalone. You need to export and import data. Or you go to the traditional ERPs. We all know them, but they're not F&B centric. They're expensive. It's not easy to implement. It's essentially rigid, right? So that's your problem. Pick this or that. Odoo comes in as a solution that does both. Odoo is what we like to call industry agnostic, but a lot of its tools, features, solutions are F&B centric, or they work for the F&B industry very well. So we are an ERP, but we also cater to the F&B industry. So essentially what we do is, instead of having this jumble, we simply do this. In short, we, instead of using different solutions, different items, we link them all together. We have one single solution from Odoo that gives you that. So let's do a quick demo. I'd always like to show rather than tell. Feel free to shoot your questions while we're going through this. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. Okay, so this is Odoo. This is your main dashboard. You have access to Odoo from pretty much any device. You don't need to buy a new POS device. You can run it from macOS, Windows, Linux, or even on your smartphone, actually, or your iPads, for example. You can run it on all of these. Now, Odoo as a solution, it's web-based. All the modules in Odoo are included. You don't need to pick and choose packages. The modules that cover everything for your sales channels, your online presence, your internal services, accounting, inventory, productivity and marketing, and HR, they're all here. Now, first things first, let's go take a look at our products lists. Let's see what we have. We have some items here. Each item can have its own recipe, and it can have multiple recipes. I can make them available in certain branches or not. I can make them available in certain times or not, and so on and so forth. Now, I have an espresso here. It has its own bill of material. I can go ahead and compute it. So if I want the costing to come up automatically, it will fetch it from our procurements. So from the point of sale, every morning, I can have as many branches as I want. We do not charge per branch. And all these branches that I have, I can manage them as a manager from one single location. All I need to do is simply click here, open register, and I will start my day. Now, one key point here to notice is that in Odoo, you can have as many waiters and waitresses as you want. In this scenario, I, as Misbah, I'm a user. I'm a licensed user using Odoo. However, Albert is one of my waiters or waitresses, right? I can have as many of those. They will have their own PIN code to log in into Odoo for the point of sale, free of charge. So let's start our day. I counted the cash, opened the register, and I have my floor plan. Now, of course, this is completely customizable. I have my indoor and I have the outdoor as well. Someone walks in, I can go ahead, seat them on a table, and take in their order. Now, you'll notice here, anytime I go ahead and shoot an order, you will see on the bottom here, it says order. Now, what this does is it essentially takes us to the kitchen display. That's our KDS. I have a small preparation screen. I can have as many as I want. There is no issues about that. But now, if I go ahead, add the items that I want, some items can be customized or they have a specific side. I can go ahead and add that as well. And this, of course, affects the inventory, by the way. So, for example, if I add an item and I say, for example, grilled vegetables, it'll consume vegetables rather than fries or potatoes in this scenario. Now I pick those items. I can switch, of course, if I wanted. Again, I have a long list of long menu. I've recently went to Cheesecake Factory. They have a pretty big menu, so I can imagine this would be useful for them to funnel through them. But I'll go ahead and shoot order. Got another table. There's a combo here. I can do those as well, so that I can customize what they want for me and go ahead and shoot them. Now, one important thing, and this is specific to fine dining. In fine dining, you walk into a restaurant, you are seated, and then you order everything from an entree to a main to a dessert, but you don't want them to come together, of course. You want to be served your entree, then your main, then your dessert. So that's why you can go ahead and pick and choose which course. So, for example, for course 1, I want a croissant. For course 2, I want the burger to come in, and then for course 3, I want still hungry, so I'll order a pasta. Now notice as I'm shooting these orders through, in the kitchen display, they're all popping up right away, right? No extra action needed. The kitchen display can be split, meaning I can have a beverages area, an oven area, main dishes area, and so on and so forth. So I can go ahead and do that, especially if you're you're worried also about allergies and such. So anytime an item is done, I can go ahead and shoot them through. I can even consolidate them. So for example, all the, let's say, burgers from 7 different tables come together. So I know to make 7 patties in one go. So I don't have to keep firing up the oven, for example, or the griller. So punch those through, and they will always be updated and give me a notification on my point of sale that they're coming through and they're ready to be served. So the kitchen display also works for the waiters and waitresses, and you can see there is a small timer here that keeps track of essentially how long is it taking. That's also useful for my reporting. So all the items went through, they're ready to go. So you can see this screen, for example, would be available for the waiters and waitresses, so they know when to come and pick things up. Or if they're running around with their tablets, they can also have it there so they know their table is ready to be picked up, and so on and so forth. So let's say they've all been served, they've been completed, they're on my reporting now, and back on the point of sale, I can go ahead and close the table. Now, when I go to the payments, I can go ahead, pick and choose how the payment is happening. That's perfectly fine. I can also give them an official invoice, like a A4 sized invoice, or even email it to them, or even WhatsApp it to them, because Odoo is integrated to WhatsApp as well. Now, this is useful, especially for business customers. Recently, I took out a client out for dinner, and of course, I expensed it. So with that scenario, I did need a proper invoice. Now, here you will also notice that even if they forgot, they can always scan the QR code and they'll be directed to my website on Odoo for them to get a proper invoice. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the payments here, get them all done. And I want to do one last thing. I do want to go ahead and it's keeping that done. I don't want a customer invoice or a customer accounts. So let me all put them on the card. Now, customer account, if you notice, essentially if someone's going to pay you later, for example, that's a scenario, or they have a wallet with you. So it just tells you to double check that you actually have their details before you do that. Now, one thing I want to do is I want to log in as Albert. Now, of course, every single person will have their own PIN code. So I just removed the PIN codes for the sake of the demo, but I, as Albert, went in, placed some orders. I go to drinks, and I placed a couple of orders here. Now, I could, let's say they're not dining in. I could choose that they're doing it for takeouts. I could schedule it, for example. So essentially, takeout here is a delivery. I could go ahead and distinguish between those two. So I hop to payments, take the card payments here, and it will add, essentially, if I go ahead and say it needs to be delivered, it will double check. So there are these points where it always tells me, hey, you sure about what you're doing? There is a missing piece of data. So for example, let's say I am delivering to a customer named Dana. I'll go ahead and say she's located in the UAE. I'll have her phone number, her details. Now, once I do that, there's a very interesting and important point happening here. I'll leave this here. I'll place the order. Yep, so it's fine. So it was just telling me, hey, do you want to get it prepared now or not? But we can go ahead and validate. Now, I'm done with this. Now, I cannot lock or essentially close the session because I am just a waiter. I'm not the manager. I don't have the access rights, but you can see the moment I switch, I do have that. I can go ahead and close the register. So let's go ahead and close the register here. Even if there is any warnings, it will keep that into account. So notice, for example, when I did open it, because there is some cash difference, it will give me a warning on that. And this can be hidden if you want to be very sure about it. But I'll go ahead and close the register. Okay. Now, what does this do in the back end? Now, so far, Misbah, there's nothing really new under the sun. It's a point of sale. You've placed a few orders, different payments. Sorry, you can manage delivery orders, someone walking in, and so on and so forth. So what else is new? Well, what's new is essentially all of this is integrated completely to the rest of Odoo. Meaning, if I, for example, go to my inventory system, a proper, fully fledged inventory system and not just an add-on, if I go and check, for example, on my stocks, I'll see all the items that have been consumed. And these items, so for example, I did not sell coffee beans or a carton cup, but how they have been consumed? Well, they've been consumed because they go into coffee. So even the bill of material that's been set, so coffee beans, for example, is being used into two different products, my iced latte and my espresso. So it goes ahead and doesn't really do account for espresso because espresso is something you do on the go, but it will count whatever the bill of material it comes from. And I have its recipe, essentially, what we call a bill of material. Also, so that's my inventory transactions have been recorded automatically, which affects my stock valuation, which affects also my procurement flow. Now, if I go ahead and check my accounting, for example, and I want to go ahead and see the point of sale, all the accounting entries are done. I don't need to go ahead and export a long receipt at the end of the day and give it to my accountant or take a picture of it and send it to them. It's just there, right? There's that excess work that happens at the end of the day. I highly advise you to walk around the mall towards 11 p.m. You'll always find someone at the cashier or at their point of sale doing a final count because they don't have that synchronization because they need to take things manually. Okay. Now, on the point of sale side, there are a few things that I would like to see as well. Now, what does reporting look like here? Now, I could look at it in terms of orders. I have a graph view. I have a pivot view. In the graph view, I can pick and choose how do I want to organize it, for example. So I want to see the orders by employee. Spa, good job. You have much more orders than Albert, for example. Or I want to do it by session. I want to do it by product. I want to do it by pretty much any data point that exists on the system. So in Odoo, the reporting tools are pretty powerful, and we always encourage people to build their own reports. There are the standard reports in the industry that we already have, but then there are those custom reports that we get asked. And we always encourage our clients to essentially build them so that they can customize them on the go and get a better handle of the way they're using Odoo. So in short, as long as the data point exists on Odoo, you can create a report with it. Whether by your own or whether we can build it for you, if the data is on Odoo, the report is easily to be extracted. So you can see here, for example, I have 2 sessions that I've created before. So what I'll do here is I want to see it by employee. Okay. Now I am measuring here the number of orders. I don't care about that. The product quantity, I don't care about that. But I do want to see the margin. I could pull that out. That's fine. Or I can just see how many orders have they taken in terms of accounts, for example. And I want to also see the subtotal without tax. Great. So I have these numbers. Now, I could go ahead and say, show it to me by day, show it to me by week, show it to me by month, and so on and so forth. Now, This is a pivot table. If I'm interested in something, I can go ahead and click and drill down. So I don't need to just look at the number and wonder where it's coming from. I can literally drill down all the way to it. See where the order came from, what inventory transfer has it done, what is its stock valuation effect, what's the margin, and so on and so forth. Also, what I can do is most of you, and I wouldn't be surprised, have a few Excel files, large workbooks that you create your reports on, where you go and submit to management, for example. You've created your own dashboards on Excel. And don't get me wrong, Excel is a great piece of software. I genuinely believe that half the world's economy is probably running on Excel. But what the issue with Excel is that it's offline. That means that you need to keep updating it. And if you usually connect multiple Excel files together, and if people don't update their files, yours doesn't update and your data is outdated. So it's a lot of workload, and the outcome is not always 100% correct. So to simplify that for you, what we can do here in Odoo is simply go ahead and pull the report that you want and simply download it into an Excel file. Easy. But that doesn't solve the second problem, right? Solve the first problem. First problem being, I want to go ahead and extract the data easily. Now, to solve the second problem, what we are able to do in Odoo is simply go ahead and insert it into a spreadsheet inside Odoo. What does that do? Well, we're not going to sit here and tell you we're better in Excel. Excel, again, has its strengths. But what we are able to do here is essentially, let me go ahead and name this. So let's call this POS report for management, for example. I'm going to call it custom POS report to make it extra important. Okay, so if you pay attention here as I'm going through these numbers, what I'm looking at is not numbers. It didn't just copy and paste values. It essentially is pulling data points from Odoo. I'm inside Odoo, by the way. I didn't leave Odoo. I'm still inside the system. It's just that this spreadsheets module that we have built in allows me to go ahead and build my own custom reports. Meaning, I could do something like this where I can go ahead and I don't want to look at July only. I want to look also in the future months. So if I go ahead and drag, essentially what's going to happen is that it's going to go through all the months, right? And these data points or these empty cells are not empty. They're just waiting for data to be populated. So once a sale happens in September, these data points will be populated. So customize your report, do whatever you want with it, and once you're ready to go ahead and share it. Now, there are a few things that you can do here. I could either freeze it and share it. So this is especially useful for businesses that operate as a franchise, where they don't want to share like real-time data. They want to freeze it and share it, for example. You could share a live document, essentially this live sheets, or there is something that you can do in Odoo is if I go here to the dashboards, Odoo has its own dashboards module. Essentially, it's a single location where all the reports in the business exists, right? And it is designed for management. So I can go ahead, apply my filters. I can go ahead, look at specific dates. There are certain dashboards that are there. But I have these reports, but there is that report that my CFO has prepared for me and worked so many long, late hours doing. So what I can do is simply go ahead and let me insert a chart because, management likes colors. I can tell you that from my own manager. So we have our graph here. We can customize it. We can add more data points and pull more data points if we want to do that. Click File, and let's go ahead and add it to our dashboard. Now, every one of these reports that I create, I can go ahead and pull them right here. You can even see, by the way, if you wanted to go ahead and customize it or you want to configure it, you can go ahead and configure the dashboards themselves and what data that they are pulling. So at any time that you want to go ahead and edit that, for example, that report, or you want to add a new report, you can go ahead and pull it for where it's coming from. So if I click on edit here, essentially I am inside the spreadsheet and I can customize all these reports that I'm looking at and the way they would show. So even that report that I went ahead and created, I can go ahead and save it either as a template to use it in the future or keep it saved for myself to use it at any time that I want. So now where I find this report is in my documents module. In my documents module, I have all the documents of the company, everything from A to Z. This is built in within Odoo, and we can see there is my report right there. Okay, so I've created this report. Now, what else can I do with my reporting? Now, my reporting on Odoo, there are the standard reports that you can pull for the entire day. For example, all the reports that come from everything from A to Z. Let me go ahead and pick a certain theme that I like. You have it printed. But I also want to see what does the rest of the business does, right? So I have my report here. And this can be customized if needed, but it pretty much is the industry standard. Now, we had a successful day of sales. We've seen our reports. So, sales-wise, we're happy. We have all our reports. We can see what items are moving fast, what items are moving slow. But now we need to be ready for the next day. We need to go ahead and prepare. So I need to go ahead and request for raw ingredients. I need to replenish. Often that involves a request. So usually the process in my experience is this. I am in the branch. I check essentially the whatever is available in my store. I note it down. I send it to the central warehouse. Central warehouse will check there. It's available, not available. And then if it's not available, they would request procurement, and then procurement buys, and then it arrives, and then we deliver it. And it's a very long chain, right? We're in the F&B business. If a customer walks in, says, "Hey, I want an iced frappuccino caramel double pump," and I don't have caramel, he's gonna walk out and go to the next place, right? So I don't want that to happen. So what do I do? Well, in Odoo, first things first, we already established the fact that any inventory movements that are happening in the point of sale go straight into my inventory. So all I need to do is to open my inventory module, and I can see all my different locations. Now I can add as many different locations. We call them warehouses. They don't have to be a warehouse. They could be a branch. So that's why I called one central and one is called a branch. Now I can also specify that the branch only resupplies from my central warehouse. So it doesn't get anything from anywhere else, right? And my central warehouse essentially resupplies either by producing, because I have the central kitchen, or it resupplies by buying. So it depends on the item that it has. Okay, so simply put, I can go to my replenishment report. What's a replenishment report, Musbah? Well, a replenishment report is simply a single location that shows me what do I need to replenish, depending on the location I'm looking at. Now I can go ahead and say, okay, show me which warehouse we're talking about. So we're talking about the central warehouse. And because I made all my sales from the central location, but again, if you did your sales from the branch, it'll do the same effects. Now you could go ahead and pick who's the vendor that we usually prefer. So we can pick that. Now Odoo usually goes ahead and picks it from your product listing. Now I like my coffee from Cypher Roastery. Very good coffee, by the way. I can go ahead and get my cups from Falcon, the Minute Maid from Gibson's, and the croissant. I don't buy my croissant. I produce them. Interesting. So what do we do here? Well, if you go ahead and see here the route, I can tell Odoo that, hey, I manufacture it. Now, because I'm producing it, it'll go ahead and pull it essentially, tell the kitchen to go ahead and produce it. Now you notice here I have a minimum and a maximum because that's essentially your bar levels. If I wanted to double check things, right, I didn't issue any orders yet, but if I wanted to double check things, what I can do is go ahead and click on this small cute button that essentially gives me a forecast. Tells me how much do you have on hand, how much is incoming, how much is outgoing, and how much is forecasted. Now, again, just for the sake of the demo, I made sales with 0 stock available. Now, Odoo as a system will not deny you from trying to sell, even if the system says you don't have stocks, because reality will always beat what it says in a system, right? If I'm able to produce the coffee, then I'm going to go ahead and produce, and I'll correct my mistakes later. If you see here, if I go ahead and simply shoot order, what essentially happens on Odoo is that I, as procurement, didn't have to, I, as an inventory keeper or the storekeeper, did not have to waste my time checking and looking and double checking and counting. Odoo is telling me what do I need to order. For the croissant, I can go ahead and also order it from the central kitchen. Now, the keen eye among you has noticed that there are different things that popped up here, different notifications. Some said PO and some said WHMO. Why? We'll find out in a moment. Let's go ahead and see what's happening in procurement side. In procurement land, the procurement officer gets a notification, hey, we need to order these things. So I'll go ahead and check. It's a draft PO. I see how much we need to order. Now I order in coffee bags, so I can go ahead and say, you know what, let's just get 10 coffee bags and go ahead and send it. You'll notice also the pricing pops up, and it all comes back to what you have set up on Odoo. You can leave your vendor price list inside and have them sent out. Now you'll go ahead and click send RFQ. Whenever you send that request for a quotation, you don't have to, but it's nice to have. I go ahead and shoot it. I don't need to type things. I don't need to do things manually. Also, in many instances, because this is a very fast-paced business, what you're able to do is to simply WhatsApp them. So the same communication I just did, templated, ready, with all the right information there, I can also then send it through WhatsApp. Now, the WhatsApp communication will be saved here for future reference, but it's a nice and nifty tool for me to have. Now, I'll go ahead and assume that the order is been confirmed. Now, anytime the order is confirmed, it automatically schedules a receipt. So back to inventory land, let's go ahead and check that out. You will see that there is a receipt that's been scheduled based on all the information I've sent here. I could go ahead and send them a PO if I wish to do so. Also, something that's very, very useful for dealing with vendors, especially in the F&B space. You don't deal with the same vendor, you deal with a lot, especially if there is, let's say, low stock of something, you need to go ahead and get it. You will notice what you can do in Odoo is go ahead and share, essentially, a link. That's why you can embed links in your email for your vendor to go ahead and view. So what I'm going to do here is simply open an incognito window and pretend to be the vendor. Now, I, as a vendor, can have this link with all its information available for me. Now, even the item that I have can have what the vendor uses in terms of naming. So, for example, internally, I call this coffee beans, but for Cypher, they have a different name. So you can see here vendor product name and vendor product code. So for them, for example, they call it Winter Blend Coffee. And this is their code. And if I'm dealing, let's say, with another roastery, let's go ahead and say Gold Box, for example. They call it Golden Coffee. And they have their own code as well. And they could also sell in their own units of measure, by the way. So for example, the standard bag from Cypher Roastery is 300 grams, but the standard bag from Gold Box is 500 grams. Now, why am I mentioning this? Because this really applies in many instances I've found with my clients where they have one physical product, but on the system they have like 5 or 6 or 7 different virtual products. And the only reason that is because their vendors or their suppliers use different namings. So that's why you see here, if I go ahead and hit refresh, they will have, now I have the wrong side of the picture, but they will have their own information saved. So if I want to go ahead and have that available, they will have their own name that they go ahead and use with their own details. They can even communicate with you here. So you can see all the communication between me and this vendor is saved. So if I go ahead, all goods will deliver tomorrow. And I do this, I can even attach something or add any details. But if I go ahead and look in the backend and I simply hit refresh, what you will find essentially is their communications right there as well. They don't have to communicate with you through that avenue, but they can communicate with you via email or WhatsApp or here. So it just leaves me a history. Okay, next. If I go ahead to my inventory module, as we said, we have the delivery done. So for the sake of time, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and confirm the other couple of orders. So let's say, you know what, let's order 200 carton cups, confirm the order. And let's do the same here. Let's go ahead and order 100 of these at the price of 2 each. One thing I want to highlight is across Odoo, you will always find essentially a history log. Any changes that happen or are done by someone are always saved. And this is very useful for the sake of traceability. Okay, so now I have 3 orders or 3 receipts. I can use my barcode scanner. Odoo is integrated with that as well. I can specify what I'm receiving. So these are the items that I'm receiving, and you can see the name that the vendor uses. This is the name I use, but this is the name they use. So if they say, hey, I've got a delivery of winter blend coffee, and go like, huh? Oh, okay, that's what you mean. No problem. So even if you scan their barcode, you can actually save that on Odoo. So when you scan their barcode, it shows up as your product. That can be done. So let's go ahead and save. Have all of validated, and now I have them in my stock. So my items are done, and I can have them all in my stock report to show up. Okay, now I have restocked, all good. However, if you recall, we said that there is one item that we do not buy. We pride ourselves in making top-notch croissants. So I go ahead and produce that on my own. So how do I manage that? This is where Odoo's manufacturing module comes in. The manufacturing module essentially can be very simple or very complex in the level of details that I would like to do. Notice here that essentially this order popped up based on the replenishment report we were looking at earlier. Meaning, I, as a stockkeeper or storekeeper, will check what I need to order, and regardless of how do I replenish it, it will manage. Either I transfer it from my location A to my location B, or I produce it, then transfer it, or I actually buy it. All 3 routes can be done. Now, you can see here, if I go ahead to the order itself, I have the amount that I need to go ahead and produce. However, I do not have dough because croissant has a semi-finished good. If I need to adjust also, by the way, the recipe, I can, but keep in mind, Odoo's keeping a watchful eye. It always shows you any changes that are happening. Now, if I try to create this demand, so if I say, for example, check availability, I don't have this available. You can see the dough itself. I can go ahead and specify how do I resupply it. I can also automate its resupply, meaning right now when I say I want to produce any baked good, I need to produce dough, which is a semi-finished good. Meaning there is 2 steps happening here. The first step is I'm saying produce baked good. Step 2, produce dough. Like I need to click to ask to produce dough. Now in Odoo, you can automate that. Anytime we need to go ahead and produce a baked good, it will automatically schedule a manufacturing order for dough or that semi-finished good, right? So, what would I want to do here? If I go ahead and I have the item, I have its bill of material that I went ahead and created as well. I have all these details available, and I can do a complete overview. Now, what's interesting here in Odoo is that it doesn't only record your bill of material as a recipe, you can even record your operations. This is very useful, for example, for catering businesses, right? When you're doing large, massive orders, where you need to essentially, let's say, supply 1,000 units, 2,000 units, you're dealing with businesses. So you would want not to only count your recipe, your raw material, but you also want to count your operations, essentially, how many hours have been worked, how long the oven has been on, and so on and so forth. That's why here you can see I can go ahead and add these operations, right? So let's say prep, right? which workstation does it use? It uses the prep station, obviously. Can I apply it on certain variants? Because in Odoo, it also understands that certain variants go through certain processes and other variants don't. I can go ahead and add a second step. Again, not too complicated. Let's say we have a mixing mixing stage, and I'll call this, for example, a mixing station. I'll go ahead and create one here just for the sake of essentially seeing what the work center will look like. So I can go ahead, add a cost. I can calculate this cost for a work center or an employee. I can even specify capacities. So for example, if I need to produce like 1,000 kgs of dough, it doesn't try to produce it in one day because that's maybe impossible. My capacity doesn't allow. And I can also record all the equipment that I have there. So I can track their maintenance and so on and so forth. So I've just added 2 steps here. Now, if I go ahead and let me, just for the sake of the example, I'm going to cancel this. And I'm going to say, because I want to produce even more, right? So I'll go ahead, say, let's produce dough. And we have the raw ingredients that we need, and we want to produce 10 kgs. I also have these steps. And if I simply go ahead and click confirm, what essentially happens is Odoo creates a plan for it. Meaning, if I go ahead to my inventory module, and I want to check my replenishment reports, same logic applies, right? The same thing that happened before in our point of sale, it's telling me what do I need to buy and from who and so on and so forth. So I get my flour for Gibson's and so on and so forth. So order. Notice that automate button also allows me to skip this step if I want to. Let me order this again. Oh, right. We shouldn't buy it. We should manufacture it and order. Great. Okay. So let's go ahead and receive these. So the nice thing here is, even though it's 3 items, but because they're coming from the same vendor in this scenario, I don't need to do things where I go ahead and create like separate orders. It's one single order. So let me go ahead and do this. Just adjusting the amounts. I do want to have some in stock. Confirm, receive, validate, and so on and so forth. Okay, let's go ahead back to our manufacturing order and see what's happening. Now you can see from the dashboard, I can see what's active and what's not active, what orders I have coming in. I have this, the items are available, and I can go ahead and hit start. Now what does start do? Start essentially takes it through the work centers that we have. Now, again, this could apply. Again, F&B is a huge industry. There are different sizes. At a certain size, whenever you're dealing with mass production for a catering business, for example, you can notice that they will need to have different stations. So that's why we have something called a shop floor. So you can pick and choose. Essentially, you can set up screens inside your central kitchen, and it goes from one step to the other, to the other, to the other. So you can see here, I can specify what I'm producing. I can batch it. I can track my expiry. I can add more material if needed, and everything's tracked, or scrap if there's a quality alert, and so on and so forth. Now, for the sake of time, I'm not going to spend too much time on the manufacturing side, but it is interesting to learn. We do other webinars that dive deep. I actually did one recently if you want to view that, to show you everything that relates to manufacturing. Okay, once things are done, I can go ahead and close the production, and that is synced back to the back end. Meaning, notice how the order just disappeared because it's no longer to do. If I go and check their croissant now, the items that I need are available. Why? Because I produced the dough, right? So even if I go ahead and view the overview, notice that it will go ahead and pick also the costing of that dough. How much did it cost me to produce? So even as your production costs vary, because the raw ingredients are varying, or because this production order took longer, or because there was a breakdown, and so on and so forth, it will account for that as well. So At any time I go ahead and produce or go through this process, now here I simplified it. I don't have work orders. It just does it in one go. I can go ahead and check my traceability report, which tells me where did I get what from. So I produced a croissant, which came from where I used dough, and this dough came from these raw ingredients, and these raw ingredients I bought them from here, or I bought them, stored them, and then went ahead and used them. So, God forbid there was an issue or a quality problem, I have a full traceability reports. Also, what I'm able to do is simply go ahead and do either my valuation, just what is the valuation, adjust. So I've consumed raw ingredients and I've produced a final product. So how did my evaluation get adjusted or affected? Or a complete overview, both in terms of time and material. So even, for example, for this manufactured order, so let's go ahead and look at it here. So with the dough that we produced, you can see in the overview, it doesn't just include my raw ingredients. It also includes the work hours I've put in. So it gives me a unit cost, it gives me a total cost of material, it gives me a total cost of work or operations taken. And as we said, the operations don't only involve the human factor, but also the machines. So the gas cost or the electricity cost and so on and so forth. All right. I'm gonna take a moment here. I do want to hear from you if you have any questions or any points you would like me to dive deeper into. We do have around 10, 13 minutes, or I can dive into more F&B scenarios here. So I'll give it a few minutes. If there's any questions or anything that you would like me to explore. Again, this is probably like 20 or 30% of what Odoo has to do for F&B. I mean, we're not touching upon, for example, HR or the marketing tools or the table booking and QR codes, ordering as well. We can take a look at that and see how the menu looks like. Beautiful. So, talabat on the point of sale. Well, recently we have gotten an integration with a company called Urban Piper, where essentially we use an aggregator of aggregators. It made more sense instead of trying to integrate with each and every aggregator that pops up, which it seems that every other day there is one. I recently heard that Tisalat you can order through them. But what we essentially did is to use that company. We essentially integrate with them, and they have the integrations as well. So if I actually find it, so you can see here Urban Piper. So what Urban Piper does is that you create an account with them, you do your agreement with them, and then you connect Odoo to it. So all the different orders that you get from different, I don't have one, that's why it's showing me this. But once you have the accounts, then you can handle whatever they support, and they pretty much support everything. They support Odoo and they support all different other aggregators. But that's only starting on Odoo 18, and it's even becoming better on Odoo 19, which is coming out in a couple of months. Any other any other questions? Very F&B. We have a few dozen people. The customer want to pay through the Talabat or Zomato. Will it reflect? So in the integration, it will show you essentially that they have received the payment. But what we did in Odoo actually for one of my clients is where we essentially were able to create them something called an aggregator statement of account. Often the issue with these aggregators is that they are the ones who determine how much they need to give you because they know how many orders you got. Or let's say they have the source of truth. Now in Odoo, what we were able to do is to essentially have a journal for all the orders that come from them. So you can actually go to them and say, this is how many orders you have received through you, and this is how much you owe me based on the split that we have. This is essentially a customization we've done for some of our F&B clients. If the customer want to pay through Talabat, nope, do we have to pay a separate fee for them? Yeah, of course. So you'll have your own agreement with Urban Piper. So they have their own fees, they have their own details, and so on. It made much more sense for everyone involved because you're talking about sometimes, half a dozen different aggregators that we want to integrate. Is it possible to have an MO created in the background as we order, let's say, croissant from POS? Yes, but not really recommended. So essentially, again, and depending on the item, right? Any item that you cook, you would use the KDS. You don't go through the hassle of a manufacturing order. Now, the nice thing in Odoo is that you have something called real-time sync for the point of sale. So what does that mean? Essentially, the point of sale can be synchronized in real time. So if I do real, so you can see here in real time, so that anytime your stock dips below a certain level, it will trigger a certain action, right? It will, so for example, I ride a motorcycle. Me and my gang of motorcycles, we go usually like 20, 25, grown men and women. And we might hit up a nice breakfast spot and we all order the same thing. So let's say we all order an Eggs Benedict. And suddenly, this huge pressure came on this location. It wasn't expecting 25 grown men to order Eggs Benedict with extra eggs. And they're running, steep or low on stock. So now and sometimes they don't notice, right? Because they're busy in the kitchen. Until, let's say, it hits 12 p.m. and they realize they're out of eggs. They call a central warehouse. Hey, send us more. And there's all these delays, right? In Odoo, when it's real time, what happens is that the moment that order gets punched and you go below a certain level, it triggers an inventory transfer. So the age of inventory requests, I'm sure many of you are doing inventory requests or warehouse transfer requests or material requests and so on, is gone. You no longer need it because Odoo handles it. There's no need to request. Odoo will request for you, right? So it handles that scenario for you. And if it needs to be produced, it will create a manufacturing order essentially in that scenario. How can I manufacture food products in batches on the same day and track them using multiple MOs? Just let me read that question again because you kind of contradicted yourself. I manufacture food products in batches on the same day and time. Okay, so you're producing multiple batches. Okay. Now, anytime you do a manufacturing order, so let's take the lovely croissant we were talking about. Say I'm producing 1,000, for example, and it's consuming dough, right? We can have other items. So let me just, for the sake of fun, I'm going to add sugar here as well and say we're using like 5 kgs or whatever, right? Just for the sake of the example. Okay, now, any time I do that, now in Odoo, what you could do is, let's take this scenario. Oh, sorry, I don't want to produce it all. Unbuild 1,000. Actually, let me do a new one. So the scenario I want to give you is, what if you didn't have all the raw ingredients available for you? So I'll answer your question plus another point here. So you're going ahead, you're producing 1,000 units, right? It's going through a manufacturing order. I go ahead and confirm it. Now, say the dough was almost ready, right? Like I don't have the entire amount that I need ready, but I have a part of it ready. So what you can do in Odoo, so let's take, for example, the dough, and let's go ahead and produce it. So say we only produced half the amount. Okay, confirm. Let me go ahead and check the availability. So I'll just go procure them all quickly. So we'll do this. That's a nice thing about Odoo. So order it. Go ahead here, confirm, receive. Okay. I'm going through this process instead of just forcing it, just so you can see the stock valuation be affected. Okay. Now, what this does is that now I have a part of the amount ready, right? So I'll go ahead, say plan, produce all, and I have that 500 kgs available. Now here, let's say I don't have everything available. Now, I could do is essentially split it. So if I go ahead and split it, it says, okay, how do you want to split it? I'm going to say each batch is 250. See what just happened? Took one order and split it into 4. I'm splitting them equally. I don't want to split them equally. I can adjust the numbers, but just for the sake of speeds. So I go ahead and do split. Now notice what happens. Now MO05 became MO05-1-2-3-4. So I can go ahead and I know they're all related to each other, right? From one single overview. So I can see that all these orders are related to each other. And I can go ahead and track how much they have consumed and so on and so forth. Any other questions? Anything? Justin, I hope I answered your question with multiple MOs, so you can see them all related here. I'll give it one more moment to get a question, or I can go ahead and see what else the point of sale can do. How do we differentiate between self-order and a normal POS order in the preparation display? It will give you sort of a essentially a notification. I'm actually interested in answering that myself because I do know it gives you a small tag. You can see the mobile menu here. So now, of course, it says we're currently closed because we are. So let me go ahead and open the register. Now, by the way, a couple of things about the mobile menu is that, again, there's multiple scenarios, right? Odoo is flexible to account for different business scenarios. So I have restaurants where they have a QR code on the table, or it could be a QR code on the window. Let's say a food truck, for example, or a kiosk. So there are different scenarios that we can handle here. So I'll go ahead and let's look at this, and I'll go to self-order. So I'll just refresh my mobile menu, and you can say order now. Now, this is the scenario where it's on the wall, right? It's not on a table. If it's on a table, it'll know you're ordering from that table. So here I go ahead and say, hey, I'm taking a takeout. This is the item that I want. This is what I need. Add to cart, out, pay. If I want it at a specific time, that is also possible. Or if I want it right now, whatever it is. My name is Misbah. And let me add my email. Again, you can pick and choose. This is very useful for you to get client information, by the way. Again, because it's synced to your marketing tools. And you go ahead and do that, right? So let me go ahead, make my payment, and Bob's your uncle. Now, in the KDS, so once I have done that, I'm curious to see what does it look like here. So it tells you takeout. So you'll be able to see that, essentially, if it's been ordered from a QR code. Porty, I sent the question. Where did you send it? Okay. All right. How long does it take to learn the software? Depends. I've been in Odoo for 4+ years, and I'm still learning the software. So it's a huge piece of software, to be completely honest. There's a lot that you can do on Odoo, like a lot. And we can't cover it all in 1 hour or 2 or 3. It essentially pretty much does everything an F&B business might need in one single place. Okay, any other questions? I'll give it another moment. I'm going to do a quick overview, essentially just to walk you through all the other modules that we have available. We can go through as well in a session if you're required to do that. Connected with the transport and logistics. Beautiful, Abdullah. Nice question. All right. So Odoo has a complete inventory module. Oh, for transport and logistics company. So you mean like a third-party delivery? You can answer me that so I can help you? Or are you talking about a different industry completely, like a transport and logistics company? POS terminal devices, Muhannad, you can use any POS terminal device you want. We don't offer any, honestly. We're very flexible. Whatever you have right now will work. Even your smartphone will work. A tablet will work. An iPad will work. It's a web app, and there is an Android and iOS native applications. Oh, Abdullah, then we'll do a session together. I'll be more than happy to guide you through how it would work for inventory and logistics. Payment gateways. Muhannad, quick answer for your payment gateways. There are several that we support out of the box. But the beauty about Odoo is it's customizable and you can integrate any payment gateway you wish to integrate. We are perfectly fine with that. So, for example, we've worked with Network before. We've worked with Stripe, of course. There are some out of the box and there are some that we can integrate for you. Okay. All right. I'll do one final quick overview. Does Odoo have B2B delivery switches? Yes, that is available in Odoo, Samuel. In inventory module, anytime you do a delivery. So let me do a quick one here. Say I'm delivering to Dana again. I go ahead and add whatever the item is. You will notice that when I go ahead and want to deliver it, there is essentially a delivery slip that can be printed and signed online or signed on a tablet. There are a million different ways to do what you're asking for. Standard Odoo. Okay. All right. So let's do a quick final tour here. So essentially, the other modules that we cover for your workflows is everything even when it comes to your marketing, right? Now, keep something in mind for marketing here with Odoo is that because your point of sale is part of your system, all the information you've been collecting from your front end show up in your back end. So, for example, if I want to go ahead and book a table, Odoo has a website module, and I can go ahead, specify how many people I'm expecting, specify a time, and it will automatically book a table for me. So the information I'm entering here will show up in the back end, right? In my marketing tool. So I know, for example, this person came once or twice or thrice, or how much they spent, and so on and so forth. Even in my CRM. So remember that marketing lady that needed her own tools. So if I go ahead and look at Dana here, for example, I can see all her POS orders because she came one time, right? So I can go ahead and market to her and tell her, hey, visit us again, or hey, here is a coupon, or hey, here is a loyalty card because you came to us one time, and so on and so forth. In the example you had, Croissant, is it possible to make child MO lines to be visible in the source MO? Yes, it can be pulled. It would show in the overview, by the way, in the manufacturing orders overview. So if I go here and let's go to Croissant, you can see in the overview, it shows me essentially what needs to be brought from the dough itself. So I can go ahead and see that if I wanted to also. So even when I look at the bill of material of Croissant, it'll go ahead and show me what goes into it, or the BOM overview completely. You can see that here, right? The Croissant includes dough, includes other items, and this includes other items, and so on and so forth. Okay. Let's see. Okay, now essentially the flow here, there is still, of course, HR, scheduling, and so on and so forth that can be done here. But I think that's enough for today. In short, what we have done here, essentially, or what Odoo is able to do, is for the front of house, we cover these modules or these flows with these modules. We can even sell online because we have a website and there's an e-commerce module as well. For the kitchen team, we cover them for something for recipe management through PLM. We have manufacturing, planning, and the KDS. Back of house, they can use the inventory module, the maintenance module, the quality control module, and the procurement. Finance, no integration needed because everything is integrated as well. And we have the payroll Marketing will use our marketing tools, and the HR team will use our HR suite. Keep in mind, I want to keep repeating this. These are not separate packages on Odoo that you pay for separately. The moment you get Odoo, you have access to all these modules. So that's why we say we are the all-in-one solution. These are some of the clients that I've personally worked with, or we've worked with as Odoo, or they're utilizing our solution in various formats. If you actually walk into some of them, you will actually see Odoo running there for them. And if you are interested in knowing more, or you would like to have something customized for you, feel free to scan the QR code. I hope you're watching on a big screen, having your cup of coffee. You can go ahead and book a time, book a slot. I'll be more than happy. You can explore it, learn more about what you're looking for, and help you out with that. With that, thank you very much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure. Feel free to go to odoo.com, try it out for yourselves, or scan the QR code if you want to speak to someone from Odoo. And we'll see you next time. Thank you very much. Thank you.